Here's why 90% of your Facebook ad creative tests fail and exactly what you can do to break past that 100K a month ceiling when you're doing that creative testing. So the first thing I like to look at when a client is testing a lot of new creatives and they're getting a lot of failures on those particular creatives is just start to understand their thought process around the whole how they're researching and coming up with these creatives, these angles, these hooks, the personas, all of those things. And then the other half is I actually like to look at the actual execution side of it. So there'll be often times where we find people that have really good research, they're writing really good creative like headlines and stuff to go on to the creative itself. But then when we look at the execution side of the creative doesn't look good. You know, it wasn't quite correctly executed on, and it wasn't necessarily a strategic problem in that mix. It was more of just a fulfillment problem, that creative that had an issue with a disconnect between the person that wrote the creative and who it was intended for, and then for the video editor itself that's actually doing the video editing or the graphic design right there. So the first thing I like to look at is just simply that right there, both the process and then also to the actual fulfillment side, and see if those things match up. Now, when I'm auditing the account, just a very easy sign for this right here is just looking at the hook on those creatives, the first 3 to 5 seconds of that video, or just what's being displayed in that image. And basically I just want to see here is, does that text hook match up with that visual hook? If we're calling out people who want to make more money and we're showing someone who's broke in their bedroom in like a trailer park, that right there is not going to call out someone who wants to make more money. But if someone, wants to make more money and we're calling that out in our text hook, and then we're also showing a visual hook of like someone driving a Lamborghini, even as cliche and overly done it is, at the end of the day, it does work. So we also want to make sure those two things are aligned. Is what we're calling out match the visual right there? And that's going to be a big part of just some like early signs right there of what may or may not be working inside of the account. Now, taking a step further, let's look at the research process. This is where I still see a lot of people make mistakes at, where they're just going and creating creatives based off like zero research. It's just coming up with random ideas in their head. They throw it at the ad account and they try it out. Or they try something out that Twitter tells them to do or YouTube tells them to do with, again, zero research on how to apply it to themselves. And then often what happens, they're still just throwing things at the wall and hoping something sticks. Everything that we test in my agency, we like to go ahead and first do a very in-depth research session so we can understand the market. And then what we have is we have like a operating system of how we think about marketing. And what we use is we look at that research right there, and based off our marketing OS, basically our marketing operating system, we can strategically figure out how we want to position this product in the marketplace. Because again, we want to always create blue oceans with our creative. Blue ocean just simply means no one's talking about that same thing. So we can actually create a blue ocean. And those are things right there that's going to trigger new dopamine when we're creating new creatives and ads and putting them in an ad account, and that's what's going to scale really fast. So first we like to understand the market, then we want to understand how we want to position this product. That's going to come down to the desire or the problem or the symptom we want to call out. Then we want to go into the awareness level we want to hit on and the sophistication level we want to hit on. Then we want to go to the persona of who exactly, basically if two people are taking protein to grow their muscles, one may be doing it to grow their glutes to attract men, aka women. The other guy or the other person, a guy, may be taking his protein to grow his chest to attract women. Just two different perspectives right there. So we kind of nail down those different personas and specific groups of people right there. Once we do all of that, then we go and actually execute on those creatives right there. So sometimes, when we look at someone's process of testing ads and how they're coming up with creatives and everything like that, that's the big problem right there. They just have a thought process that's incorrect of how they're actually going about testing and creating these creatives and everything. Then once we actually start looking at the actual script itself or headline itself that they execute on and they create based off all that research and stuff, usually for the hooks and the actual script itself are usually pretty decent. I don't really see too many like fatal errors in the hooks and like the scripts, but just common little things is like the hook never intrigues curiosity. It's like, take protein to grow your chest. It's like, okay, whatever, boom. Instead, this little known secret increased my chest size by 30%. Or this little known secret allowed me to bench 225 for the first time. And that actually intrigues people to come in and watch that particular creative right there. Or look at that image and actually go a little bit deeper into the landing page or something like that. Now, the other key thing is that the actual script itself, what I'll typically see people do is they'll get too logical in the script where it's like, hey, this will increase your chest size by 25%. And then it's just like literally talking about all these chemical formulas in here, but it's not highlighting the person these people are going to become when they drink this and all the different benefits of drinking this and how it's going to help that particular person right there. So that's another thing I'll typically see in scripts right there. Like we want to keep highlighting those benefits and keep it like painting that picture that people will become when they actually use our product right there. So that'll be the next thing I'll typically see inside of the account. That's just like little errors right there. But again, I don't see it too often, but I usually see it for people that are like still stuck between like 0 and 30K a month. That's really where they make that mistake at. Now, the next thing for what's holding people back and why a lot of tests are failing is because they're not focusing on new things. We had this one particular account where we basically got in the account, we upscaled it to 100 200K a month, and basically 4 months after we hit that 200K a month, they start falling like face flat and actually losing performance. And I had to talk to my team and kind of dove into everything of what was going on in this account. Turned out that once the team found that winning ad, they just kept iterating over and over on that winning ad. And what happened? They never found anything new that became a winner. Why? Because they just kept doing the same thing over and over, and it got exhausting. It's like if I uploaded the exact same YouTube video every day with just a different title on it. Like, yeah, some of y'all would watch it because just like the different title would capture your attention for the first time. But then after you came back for day 2 and 3, you're like, oh wait, he's just uploading the same video every day. Like you wouldn't retain on the channel. So that's a big thing right there when we're looking at these new tests. Like once we find a new winning creative, like literally all I'll do is try to go ahead and maybe swap in new people, swap in new locations that the ad's being filmed at. And then maybe I'll test a few different angles, which is just new ways to say the hook. And then that's also going to completely change the rest of the script as well. And then after that, that's it. I'm moving on to the next thing. I don't want to spend too long just iterating on that. I'm going to milk it for the first maybe 2-3 weeks that it works, and then I'm moving on. I'm not going to be the person that 6 months later I'm still iterating on the same winning creative, because the likelihood of that continuing to yield you new creatives is extremely low, like maybe 0.1%. So for me, and I had to learn this lesson not just once, but twice. My early Facebook ads career, I made that mistake, and literally 6 months straight of testing the same thing, never found a new winning ad. Found a new desire in the marketplace, positioned it around that product, filmed some new content with it, launched it, and almost immediately became a new winning ad that took us to 10K a day right there. So again, that's a big thing that I'll often see too, of why a lot of people's tests would just simply fail inside of Facebook and everything. Now, this went around a lot of tests, just kind of not really spending and then, not really yielding the performance they want. But let's look at some tests that maybe will start to spend a lot in the campaign, but fail from a CPA perspective, a cost per acquisition perspective right there. So if we have an ad that's getting a lot of spend, but it's not really giving us the best cost per purchase, that's when I want to look at other metrics right here. This is when I will look at some of the soft metrics from a perspective of what is the soft metrics telling us. Now, soft metrics are going to be like your cost per click, your CTR. You can do scroll, stop, and hold rate, but I rarely ever look at those. I mostly look at cost per click and CTR. And that's going to give me a relative of like, hey, are people actually clicking on this ad or not? I don't care if someone stops to scroll on it. That really doesn't doesn't do anything for me. But if someone's clicking on this ad, then I know there's some intent behind that versus just a stop the scroll. So for me, when I go and look at the clicks, hey, this ad's getting a lot of spin and we're getting a really good amount of clicks, but we're just not converting. Like, this particular ad just doesn't convert traffic the same way as some of the other ads in our account. You know, maybe we have an average of a 97-cent cost per click and this ad's getting an 80-cent cost per click, but it has a way higher cost per purchase. Then guess what I'm gonna do right there? I'm gonna go look at and see maybe the particular angle we're using is just needs a little bit more convincing and a little bit more maybe we're going for more of an unaware or problem-aware market awareness, and we need to kind of give people a little bit more time and lead them with some more info and data for them to make a decision on actually purchasing. So what I would look at doing here is actually creating, relaunching this ad, which is simply a new landing page. I would test something like an advertorial or listicle, maybe even a VSL, just kind of depending on the particular scenario of what we're saying in that creative right there, and actually giving them a little bit more information by going add listicle product page or add advertorial product page or add VSL product page, just giving them that a little bit more information before actually send them to the product page has been proven to give us a higher conversion rate in some scenarios right there, just because all it does is give people a little bit more information about buying before they actually go ahead and make that purchase right there. So instead of just saying, hey, here's this huge new belief you need to believe now, boom, buy now product page. Now it's huge new belief. Here's a long form VSL going into that thing and fully selling you on it. Now here's the product, and then go buy. So yes, it's a little bit longer and adds a little bit more friction, but it actually helps improve in certain scenarios depending on what we're selling right there, especially if it needs a little bit more belief behind it before people are fully convinced in that scenario right there. Now, the last thing that I'll typically see is maybe we're getting a high cost per purchase and we're spending more on Facebook ads, and we just can't beat a particular ad and we just keep getting a higher and higher cost per purchase. I would actually shift my attention away from Facebook and actually look at AOV. AOV is actually something that a lot of people just simply don't look at, and is actually a very easy play to help make more money at the end of the day. You might be testing hundreds of new creatives every week and you just can't beat a certain cost per purchase. Then it's well, hey, can we actually remove the pressure off Facebook and actually apply that to another part of the business? And that's when we look at something like AOV, for example. And it's actually shockingly alarming to me the number of people that still don't put any attention to the AOV, which is just simply the average order value right there. And they might be stressing over trying to get a $30 cost per purchase down to a $25 cost per purchase. And I'm hey, look, yeah, let's keep putting pressure there, but AOV right there, what have you done in the last 6 months on AOV? And it's oh, nothing. So then what I'll do is just simply put pressure on them and start testing AOV the same way they test new creatives every week. Can we test different bundles? Can we test different products in the cart as upsells? Can we test different post-purchase upsells? And rotating new things in every other week or every week, depending on how much data they're getting, to see if we can actually improve that AOV. If you're stressing right now because you're getting a $30 cost per purchase and you have a $60 AOV and you're stressing because you're only getting a 2x ROAS, it's well, hey, can we go improve AOV and get up to $90? If we get up to $90, that's literally go $30 cost per purchase with a $90 AOV. Now all of a sudden you're getting a 3x ROAS, and that may or may not be much better for you from a profitability standpoint to scale up further. So that's the last thing that I would be looking at right there, just from kind of, going through that funnel right there of different approaches we can take to further improve some of those ad tests to actually turn them into winning creatives and everything. So thank y'all for watching. If y'all enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you want me to actually go into your account and run your ads, I specifically only work with brands doing at least $100,000 a month. Click the link below, have Nick Theriot run your ads. And then if you're doing less than $100,000 a month and you want me to actually mentor you, jump on one-on-one calls to review your creatives and your ad account and all that good stuff, then click the link below to join Nick's Inner Circle. Thank y'all for watching. Hope you have a good rest of y'all day. Peace out.